Hello and thank you for tuning in to Millennium Movies. I'm your host Jesse James, and I gotta say, I wasn't gonna make this video because I don't even like having the thought of it in my head, but it's been in my head since last night and all throughout today, so I figured I have to talk about it. And before I get into this video, you probably read the headline already. I'm a huge Walking Dead fan. As you can see, I got issue number 1 right there, and then all the way up to issue 100. I have collected 1 through 100 of the paperback issues, not the volumes that have like 10 to 15 comics in one. No, I bought each single issue because I like holding the paperbacks. And this is issue 100 where Glenn died, and we'll get into this in a little bit. And you can see, I got the comic book Rick, I've got TV show Rick right here. So, huge fan of The Walking Dead, but I gotta say, last night's episode really, got to me. It really did. And I gotta say, my passion and my love for The Walking Dead has been it's been dying a slow death. Let's just say that. I'm not as, as much as a fanatic as I used to be back in like season 1, season 2, season 3. Like, I was all in, man. I was all in for The Walking Dead. I was everything. The governor, the battles that were going on, the inner turmoil with the group with Shane and Dale and stuff like that, and just getting to know these characters. And way back in season 1 where the zombies were the real threat, that was my stuff, man. But now here we are in season 8, and I gotta say, my passion's been it's just slowly dying. And it makes me sad because this was once a great show, and I don't think it's a great show anymore. It's still a good show. I still watch it, but it's not great anymore. And I think a major problem for The Walking Dead is that there's no clear end in sight, both in the comics or in the show. And that's, I think, a major problem that Robert Kirkman has, is that he has no clear end in sight, whereas shows like Breaking Bad and Sons of Anarchy, who were created by Vince Gilligan and Kurt Sutter respectively, those two gentlemen both had an end in sight. They knew where they wanted the show to end because they had a clear, definitive ending in mind, so the show doesn't drag on and lose any of the touch, that magic touch that those two shows had. And they ended on such a high note that people are going to remember them for the longest time. Iconic characters like Heisenberg or, Sons of Anarchy have Jax Teller. So, what's the problem with The Walking Dead? Well, there's no clear end in sight. The comics, like I said, issue 100 there. After Glenn's death, I finished All Out War. I read All Out War. I've got like 1 through, I think it was like 120 something. It ended somewhere around there. And after the war ended in the comics, I stopped reading. I stopped getting the issues like individually. I just stopped because I felt like that was a perfect ending. We went through all this stuff. And the comic books, I love just about everything leading up to All Out War. I loved getting to know the characters in the beginning. Finding out this crazy world with zombies in it and the undead, the dead rising up from the ground. Meeting the characters in the prison. I love the prison characters. Axel, the whole battle with the governor, the hunters, getting to Alexandria, Glenn's death, meeting Negan, the build up to Negan, and then the all-out war. I loved all of it. But then after that, and even in the comics, my love for it kind of dwindled down. And that's because I think with a story, you can only tell so much story without it getting to a point where it's a little redundant and you're like, okay, we've seen that before, what else can you show us? Or is it just, time to just cut it, end it, end on a high note. But the Walking Dead comics, the show, have decided to do that. And the comics are like at 170 something right now. Like, they're about to hit 200 issues probably by the end of 2018. So there's obviously no clear end in sight. Robert Kirkman has said that himself. I believe he said that he has an ending like way, like he can barely see it or something like that. So probably like in, I don't know, 300, 400, 500 issues or something crazy like that. And the show, the showrunners have said various times, the producers, that they want The Walking Dead to be on for like the next 10 years. So, yeah, while back in like season 2, that sounded like a great thing. Like, oh wow, that's wonderful. It's going to be here for the rest of my life. But is that really a good thing? I mean, when you look at the state of the show now and how much repetition that we're seeing in storylines and character tropes. I mean, like the stuff with Jesus and Tara, battling between each other, determining, should we kill this guy? Should we not kill this guy? If we kill them, are we really the bad guys? Like, we've been dealing with those types of storylines since even way back in season 2 with Dale. Like, the whole issue with Rando in the barn, and should we kill this kid or should we not kill this kid? And Shane wanted to kill him. Some people didn't want to kill him. So we've seen these storylines before, and they're just they're going in circles around each other. And you got to think, I know Scott Gimple is the showrunner, but with so many writers, you have to think, can't they come up with something that's creative, a little more creative, and a little less contrived, a little more out of the box? And I'm not talking about killing Carl out of the box. I'm just talking about something, an interesting turn that both fans of the comics and the show can appreciate together in unity. But no, it appears like they really just can't do that. And I gotta say, a season 7, even some of the pieces of All Out War, they just feel so dragged out to where The Walking Dead feels like they have to meet this quota of 16 episodes. You don't have to meet that quota. AMC, you can set, the amount of episodes that you want. Season 1 was 6 episodes. Season 2 was 13 episodes. It doesn't have to be 16 episodes and 8 episodes, mid-season break, another 8 episodes. It doesn't have to be the format. They can change the format to better suit the storytelling, but, they gotta have their money. I understand. This is AMC's cash cow. Other shows like Into the Badlands, Fear the Walking Dead, Washington Turned Spy, Preacher, while is critically acclaimed and has good fan support, is not as anywhere near as popular as Walking Dead. So this is their cash cow, and they make all their money, most of their money, I'd say like probably 70-80% of it from The Walking Dead. That's just my estimate. So you take that into consideration, and just the amount of commercials that they put in for these finales, premieres, mid-season finales, mid-season premieres. It feels like there's commercials every 10 damn minutes, and it's because they're trying to make, squeeze out every dollar that they can. And I understand that because it goes into the budget and having to pay the producers and the creators and the actors and the talent and everyone behind it, and of course pay themselves. But like, at the end of the day, the storytelling is what matters. You think of Sons of Anarchy, Breaking Bad, or even amazing trilogies that continue on like Star Wars or even Lord of the Rings. They know where to go. I mean, maybe not so much George Lucas with the prequels, but even so, I mean, can't you just come up with something that's a little more creative? I don't understand why we have to have so much repetition. And what's really bothering me is really that bite to Carl. It's honestly, it's bothering me a lot. And I did not like Carl back in season 2, or even so much in season 3, but season 4, season 5, season 6, season 7, season 8, he has grown so much as a character, and there's still so much room for improvement and character development and growth. And then he gets bit on a random episode 7, and in episode 8 he's dying, and in episode 9 he's going to die, most likely. So, I mean, after this, we're just going to have Rick, Daryl, and Carol as the last Atlanta survivors. I don't count Morgan because he wasn't a part of the Atlanta group. So, 3. And of those 3, right now in the comic books, well, Daryl, for one, was never even in the comic books. Carol died in the prison. So you really only have Rick? Only Rick. We're in the comics after All Out War. I don't know about now, but after the All Out War arc, Rick, Andrea, Carl, and Sophia are still alive. 4 characters, and as opposed to in the show, just 1. That is absolutely mind-blowing to me, that we only have Rick Grimes left from the original Atlanta group in the comics to the show, who's still alive. And that's because we haven't even finished All Out War. Like, that is crazy to me. It is absolutely crazy, and it really pisses me off. It honestly does. And I was reading this interview with Chandler Riggs, and he was saying himself, it's not because he wanted to go off the show. He had no idea that he was going to be killed off. He had just bought a house in Atlanta, and of course that's where they shoot the show. And 2 weeks before his birthday, he gets told by Scott Gimple that the character's going to die. After Chandler Riggs apparently was told by Gimple that He was going to be in the show for the next 3 years, so he makes this decision to buy this house in Atlanta, his first house, and then you kill him off 2 weeks later. Like, you're taking away money from this young actor who you told, he's young, he's going to be a little more gullible, and he's going to believe you, and then you do that to him. It's just wrong on so many levels. It really, it bothers me. And I read this comment from Chandler Riggs' father, who said that he didn't trust Gimple or AMC, but that Chandler did. So, he let him make his own decision. And now we see, obviously, where it went. He was still grateful for the time that he spent on the show, but, like, that's still, it's kind of a messed up thing that they did to him. And the fact this was just Gimple thinking that story-wise it made sense. How does this make sense story-wise? In what universe does killing Carl make sense? Don't tell me this is going to be the reason that Rick decides not to kill Negan in the show. Because this would just further incentivize, his son's death would just further incentivize Rick to kill Negan, the man who's responsible for the killing of his best friend, Glenn, and another good friend and good soldier in Abraham, and plenty of other people and friends of his. And in a way, the saviors in this war have been responsible for Carl even being put in the position to find Sadiq and want to help him and then get him killed. So why would Rick want to save this man now? Why? Why would he want to save this man now? And if it's because of his son dying that he wants to save this man who's been nothing but a dick to him and his friends and his family, it does not make sense. If you for some reason want that to be the reason, maybe you kill off Morgan, who thinks that people are, who are still, they have their good in them. And, maybe that would make a little more sense. But even then it really doesn't, because Morgan has flip-flop as well. He's not zen and clear anymore. He's gone, I'm seeing red again. So, like, characters keep flip-flopping, and that's to go again with repetitive storylines. And just this death of Carl, man, it didn't even feel like a huge death. This is a huge death. He is the future of the show, and you have killed him off. In a way, they've shot themselves in the foot, because Carl was going to be the future of the show, just like he is the future of the comic books. And you kill him off, and now what? Now what? Scott Gimple, the showrunner. I've had a lot of problems with a lot of showrunners in The Walking Dead. I didn't like Glenn Mazzara either, who took over in Season 2 and then was in charge of Season 3. He killed off characters left and right, he did. And he's a big part of the reason that Dale didn't want to be on the show anymore, because he wanted to get Frank Darabont, who came up with the idea for putting up the show and delivered an amazing Season 1. They took him off the show because he wasn't sticking to the comics, and they didn't want to pay him his money. So you get rid of him, who is a master filmmaker. The Green Mile, the Shawshank Redemption, movies like that, those great adaptations from Stephen King. I love The Mist too. Regardless of what you think, I love it. But anyways, you let go of him because you don't want to pay him his money, and because he's not sticking to the comics. But then, seasons later, now we're with Scott Gimple, who's not sticking to the comics as well. You killed Carl. You are killing Carl. And not just Carl, but Abraham as well back in Season 7. You could have just killed Glenn, or you could have just killed Abraham, but you kill them both. And you keep characters like Daryl around, who were not in the comics to begin with, and I don't care how big his fan base is. If you killed him off with Lucille, that would have been huge, and people would have still watched. I don't care what the fangirls say. Those fangirls love Carl. They love Carol. They love Maggie. They have other characters that they love as well. And they would have stuck around. Most likely, most of them, if they were true fans of The Walking Dead, they would have stuck around, and they would still be here. And that would be a huge death, and that would, add a bunch of layers to other characters. But with characters like Daryl, there's nothing left. There's nothing left. There's nowhere else for him to go. His character is, two-dimensional at best. There's nowhere else for his story to take him. He's already reached his destination, whereas characters like, Rick is the protagonist. Carl is the future. Characters like Carol can now lead communities like the Kingdom and become this queen over there, like King Ezekiel's the king. And Maggie is taking on this leadership role in the Kingdom. All these other characters have so many places that they can still go and they can still grow as characters, whereas a character like Daryl has nowhere else to go. And you keep him around, but you kill characters like Glenn, Abraham, and Carl. it's just, it's upsetting. It really is. And I don't know if you guys feel this way. Maybe you still love the show. Maybe, you're still a huge fan of it. Maybe you agree with me. Please let me know what your thoughts are on this whole issue with Carl's impending death, with these repetitive storylines. Maybe your hype isn't as much as it used to be with this show. Certainly mine isn't, and I hate saying that. I'll still be tuning into the next half just to see how it plays out. But after that, much like in the comics, once All Out War finishes, I think I might be finished with the show as well. I really don't know. So that's why I've stopped doing Walking Dead videos as I used to do them, or I plan to start doing videos this season, because I've kind of been let down, What else can I say? So, this has just been One Man's Thoughts. This guy right here, Millennium Movies. If you like movie news and TV news and reviews and stuff like that, then please go ahead and consider subscribing. It would really help me out a lot, and I'd love to have a conversation with you, whether it's about Walking Dead or any other movie or show that's out there. This has just been Millennium Movies, and I will see you guys next time.